We got Pokemon leaks and rumors to talk about, so let's get started right off the bat, guys. Now, this is going to be a long video, so please sit back, relax, grab yourself a beverage, because we're going to be talking for quite a long time. Starting things off, we have this post from Eclipse, who says, nice fake, and this is basically just an image, seemingly from the Chinese boards, the Chinese, like, Tieba Baidu boards. If you don't know what that is, it's basically the Reddit of China, right? Basically, what this image seems to show is a Chinese logo for Pokemon Black and Pokemon White on the left side over there, and then right underneath my camera here, what seems to be Legends Celebi of sorts, or a game that looks like a Legends Johto type game. So that's basically what's being shown here. So far, everybody's saying it's fake. I think everybody said it's fake that I've even talked to. It's pretty obvious it is fake. But again, you never know, right? Like, a lot of people thought, and I'm just going to be frankly honest with you guys, this probably is fake, but a lot of people did also think that our first ever leaked image of Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee was fake and it ended up being real. A lot of people thought that was fake and ended up actually being real. So just want to show this because who knows? You never know. Probably is fake and it's going to show up somewhere like, you know, somebody might make a video like, haha, this is how I tricked people into believing my fake leak. People will be doing that a lot lately, but again, fake leaks, they happen all the time. I think this one looks pretty cool. Nonetheless, though, it's not really much to go off of. It's just a silhouette of what even... I mean, the character, it does look like... forget his name now, main character from Pokemon Black specifically, like the original Pokemon Black and White, but it's not really much to say about it. It's just an image, there's a few pieces of text, there's not really much else going on. Like, if we open up the image and we try to zoom in, it's very blurry, you can kind of barely tell what's going on. It's like that obvious blurriness they do to kind of hide it, right, if it's a fake. But sometimes we've had legitimate stuff like this, so just keep that in mind, okay? There's a chance this could be real, but most likely it's a 90% chance fake, 10% chance real, so take it as you will. Now, we do have a bunch of other stuff to talk about as well. One of the first things that I think is awesome is I actually played Detective Pikachu Returns yesterday. If you guys haven't seen the game, it is pretty alright. It's okay. It's not the best game in the world, but it's a game nonetheless, though. And what's interesting about it is, this is something I noticed as well, but that Pokisutami also noticed, which is, basically, if you guys played the game, in one of the first missions you do, right? One of the first missions you do in the game, you go inside of this building of this, like, millionaire guy, and basically when you walk around the building, on the left side of his entrance, he has a Ho-Oh image, and on the right side, he has a Lugia image. Very specific choices, and if you interact with them, they're referred to as their name specifically. The name of the painting is Golden Sunrise, and it depicts a Ho-Oh, and the other one is called In Silver Waves, okay? That's what these things are called, which is very specific, okay? Now, think about this. Pokemon Golden Sunrise and Silver Winds. That is some... Or Silver Waves, sorry. Those are some really freaking good names for Pokemon games. Like Pokemon GS, literally Gold and Silver, and Pokemon SW, right? So similar to Pokemon, you know, Sword and Shield. But basically what I'm trying to say is, these are good names. These are good names that could hint towards it being. Now, you might be arguing, hey, this is a separate game. This game has been in development forever, but here's the thing. Everything that happens between the Pokemon spin-offs and that happens with the mainline games, there's usually a connection. They always have, like, an idea of what the next thing is going to be, or they might tell them, or whatever, right? And the thing is, you might be arguing, hey, they would never leave a hint for a future Pokemon game in a spin-off game. They would never do that, except they've done it before. I think a good example of this, I think, is Munchlax. I think Munchlax was introduced, like, when it was actually introduced, it was already hinted in a... I think Munchlax and Manaphy may have been one of the other ones. I could be wrong about the Manaphy one, but I just simply know that Munchlax, if I remember correctly, was already hinted prior to the release of, you know, I think Sinnoh. Like, I think it was already hinted at that point. So my point just stands, which is that this is still potential, okay? This is still a high potential. This gives me more hope because I've already spoken in multiple videos about why Gold and Silver remakes make sense next year, and I'm going to repeat those points here, and I've actually... I ended up losing faith, but now I've gained more faith just by seeing this little thing in Pokemon Detective Pikachu Returns, because they have been promoting this game kind of hard now since it's been out. Like, they're even doing a Pokemon Go event. For those of you who play Pokemon Go, you may have seen, you can actually, I'm going to literally open up Pokemon Go to make the point clear. They've even done a Pokemon Go event. You might argue they do Pokemon Go events for everything. True, but... it's really interesting how they went, you know, kind of all in and made like a special Pikachu again with the hat, even a special Slowpoke. Like, you guys can see if you actually play the game that you have straight up like a Detective Pikachu Returns event. Now, I don't know if my camera is going to zoom in. There you go. It's a literal event, and I've been playing it barely because I have no stops here. But basically, the fact that they're going far enough that they're involving this game more than just like, here, we dropped it, here's a few tweets, and we're done with it. They're actually trying to do a little bit more with it, right? Which is interesting, because this game is not the biggest release ever. It's not that interesting. It doesn't have much in terms of gameplay realistically. It's very much on the rails as a game. Kind of similar, I would say, to Pokemon Snap. But again, it's interesting that this is here, because they do tend to leave like little hints and breadcrumbs in one thing that hints to the next thing. Now, Golden Sunrise and Silver Waves are cool names, but it also may be a little too obvious on the nose if they put it right in there. This could all just be nothing, right? This could all just be for fun. There might be a legitimate reason, like, for it. And we've been scammed by our predictions or stuff like that in the past, right? We've expected things and then it never happened. Like, for example, when the original Presents came out for, I think it was BDSP, like before BDSP actually, around that era, or actually Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee era, like around that time, we expected to see Pokemon Gold and Silver games, and the reason for that was because there was a bunch of, like, hints behind, like, the Pokemon president, like, behind him. He had a bunch of plushies of, like, Lugia and Ho-Oh and stuff, and we were like, oh my god, Johto! But I'm just saying, next year is the most logical one. There's a bunch of hints in Scarlet and Violet to Johto. There's a bunch of hints inside of, like, you know, just other things. You've got, like, the fact that, you know, again, Billy and Onair, those two are literally billionaire, and they've got gold and silver hair. The patches on the characters in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, gold and silver. In Pokemon Scarlet, which is, like, the game that's, you know, got the more like, you know, red side of coloring to it, which is closer to yellow. That one has got the gold patch. The other one, Violet, which is, of course, a bit more close to, like, I guess, white slash, you know, bluish and, you know, gray and all that. With silver, is perfectly matched up because you have a silver patch. But that's just one of the few things. You've got the Johto Game Boy music inside of Pokemon the Teal Mask, right? Inside, like, when you take a specific photo with the new Roto Stick, you can actually play the Johto music. It's like a remixed like Game Boy version of it, which is really weird. Of course, this doesn't mean we're gonna get, like, a remake. They could also just release, like, Gold and Silver on, you know, virtual console type of way. I don't think that's gonna be the case, but it is interesting that there's a bunch of hints towards it. The fact that next year is also the 25th anniversary of these games, it just makes total sense to me that this would be the direction we're going in. Of course, I know Unova has way more points, and we're going to talk about Unova in a second, but I just want to bring this up because I thought it was really, really cool. Speaking of Unova, we're going to be going through a bunch of posts from Riddler Coup. Now, I'm going to quickly point out, Riddler Coup, for those who do not know, is a legitimate leaker. Now, this is the person right here. His name is currently changed to a new low for Kieran, says Coup, which is interesting because that's just him pointing towards Kieran, who is more or less going to be evil and do some messed up stuff in the Indigo Disc, which is the next DLC. But he's been predicting, or rather, he's been giving us a bunch of little riddles lately, and we're going to start off with the first one. We're going to go from the bottom up little by little because there's a bunch to say about these, and this is like what majority of the video is going to be about. So, predict the title in 2 months. Palace, question mark, or something else. What will the topic be? Now, he says here, predict the title in 2 months. Palace or something else. What will the topic be? Interestingly, he specifically brings up Palace. Now, what did he talk about with Palace here? Well, there used to be an old tweet from him where he specifically brought up the Dragon Palace, I think in reference to Unova, and as such, I'm assuming here what he's saying is, predict the title in 2 months. Well, in 2 months, that's him more or less probably giving us the time frame, because he posted this on the 2nd of October. That gives us about the time frame, I guess, when we should be expecting the second DLC to drop. We are expecting that DLC to be at the beginning of November, however, so the timing is a little bit odd. Like, in 2 months, he's specifically at 2 months, which would imply December, but he says we can predict it by then, okay? So within 2 months, we should be able to predict what this place is. As for the palace mention, that could be a lot of different things. There could be a reference to, again, the Dragon Palace. There could be a reference to any kind of palace. There could be a reference to, like, perhaps, like, the place we're gonna go to in the Indigo Disc. Now, for those of you who do not know, in the Indigo Disc, we're gonna be going also down back into Area 0, into a secret location we haven't been to yet. That's something where we're going to be doing. But also, it could be like the structure in the middle of the Indigo Disc. It's like a big structure in the middle that you can kind of enter and battle inside of. I mean, I guess you can't even enter it. It's just like a arena type thing with crystals around it, which you could argue could be the palace. But I think this may have more to do with the underground, like the Area 0 location we're going to go to. I think that's what this is about. Now, this is interesting, though, because this pretty much confirms that we will know more or less, or have an idea, a general idea of what the topic will be for the next game. So predict the title in 2 months. So the title is specifically referring to the next titles, the next Pokemon games in 2 months. palace question mark or something else? What will the topic be? Again, a little random. And then here you can see Blaze says, do you mean we could predict the Unova game title after Indigo Disc comes out? Possibly. Somebody made here Dragon Palace. Could it be like perhaps a reference to, you know, like from literal, like, you know, real life history and real life mythology? And then the fact that it like resembles like the actual Indigo Disc location we're going to be in, like the Blueberry Academy itself with the whole like biomes and whatnot. Again, it could be this middle location right down there in the middle, but we don't really know. That's the issue, right? So again, this is a little bit confusing. This is a little bit all over the place. Again, it could also be this palace, which we literally have seen. So again, like I said, it's a little confusing. It is a little weird, but it seems to be hinting, or it seems to be pointing, at least with the palace part, right? With the palace question mark, seems to be pointing towards possibly the Unova Dragon Palace place. So again, we'll have to wait and see. Then he tweeted out this image, and this is the start of a brand new set of rumors, or riddles, I guess is the right word to use, right? So this is a image which was a bit confusing. At first, people didn't really know what was going on. And he says, enjoy this. It's a new fun series. Now, again, we don't really know what this is in reference to, like the actual series. Like, is this new series? Like, when he says series, by the way, he's specifically talking about, I'm guessing, either one of two things. He says it's a new fun series, so either a series of riddles, right? Like, oh, this is a new series of riddles I'll be doing for you guys, or he says it's a new fun series, a new actual Pokemon series. I think it's the first option, but the latter option I think is pretty interesting to consider as well. Now, what is this actual thing here? What is this meaning of this thing? Well, when people look into it, and looked through to see what it's all about, they figured out that basically it's a clue from the 3D Pokédex in the Gen 5, the QR code for Dano. So already we've got the fact that it's Dano, so it's a Gen 5 Pokemon. We got the fact that it's from the 3D Pokédex in Gen 5, so that's another thing. But yes, we pretty much have confirmed that this is a QR code for Dano in the 3D Pokédex from that era, from the Gen 5 era. So that's one of the first things we know, so which is a little bit random, but either way, that's the first thing he posted, and that's what we got out of that. So Dano is the first thing we know. Next up, though, as we scroll through, he tweeted these two things, and these were a little bit confusing, but the first one basically said, original soup, original taste. And then the second one, this one was a little bit confusing. I think it just said, ha ha ha. So more or less, people were confused. Okay, what is he talking about, original soup, original taste? Well, I actually got an explanation from Jan right here, who explained this to me. Basically, original soup, original taste is a Chinese-like term that they specifically use in China. The Pokemon community in China use that to refer to Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Now, why do they do that? Because basically what this means, original soup, original taste, is to be a faithful remake. So he basically tweeted this as a way to either hint at a bunch of different things. It could either be him talking about people wanting a faithful remake, but them not being happy with a faithful remake, or possibly him just referring to the fact that people want a remake game, but they're expecting a faithful one, which would be more similar to BDSP, but what we're going to get is not going to be that, if that computes with you guys. Basically, it's one of two things. Either he's saying, you're going to get a faithful remake, or you're not going to get a faithful remake, and people are expecting that, which would make sense. A lot of people do also want to see a Black and White 3, but I digress. Either way, if we go back here now and continue to the rest of the posts, so this one was kind of a weird one. We didn't know if this one was connected to this one. The connection was a little bit off, but the next thing he says is this, though. Posts I guess, foot here, and this seemed to have been Doduo's foot, right? That's what we've learned from this one. Seems to be Doduo's foot. He says, tomorrow we'll post some emoji. Fan theories tended to be flawed. By the way, this series is a callback. You'd have known the answer, but it was hard to interpret at the moment. So we prepared this series. Again, it's very confusing. A lot of people are trying to figure out what this could refer to, like what is the reference to, like is this like is he counting, right? Is he trying to count? Because if you think about it, Dano's got one head, the duo's got two, and then I think the next Pokemon on the list here, the next thing that's being hinted, if we continue on, is this one, the third one. And this is a bunch of emojis of what seems to be nut and bolts. Nut and bolts would be only really like a one Pokemon I can think of, which is Magnemite, Magneton, whatever. And he posted it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 times, which I don't know if that has any meaning behind it at all. But if you think about, you know, like if we just think about Magneton, it has 3 heads. So if we go from the bottom, we start with Dano with 1 head. You know, we've got Doduo with 2. We've got what seems to be Magneton with 3. And then this thing was posted today. And here he says, no correct answers by far. Well, people were able to figure out that if you actually look it up, the pattern that he posted here seems to be a pattern from one of the Pokemon shirts. Now, these Pokemon shirts, they've been out for a while now. It's like this whole like series of Pokemon shirts they do. It's like a collection. And it specifically has a Probopass on it. Interestingly, Nosepass was now introduced in the teal mask. And funny enough, it always points north. So some people thought maybe it's connected to that, but probably not. What they try to figure out, though, is that basically Probopass has more or less 3 heads, right? If you think about it, or 4 if you want to count like how, but depending on how you want to count it, right? Because if you look right here, it basically has the main head, right? It's got the main head. So look at the top left up there, right? Oh, sorry, this is the top middle, right? So top middle, you've got the main head, the main body, then you've got 3 heads following it. That's 4 heads in total, right? That's 4 heads, which would mean that he's basically counting, right? Think about it. You go with Dano, 1 head, then the Duo 2, Magneton 3, and then Probopass 4. So he's counting. It's just counting one by one, you know, like up, you know, just up. It's just counting up, which, again, very confusing. I am very much trying to understand what he's trying to say here. It's not very logical, again. He says it's a callback. Keep that in mind, right? He did mention that this series is a callback. So, again, this pretty much confirms. He says a series is a callback, which could, again, imply one of 2 things. Either this series of riddles is a callback to a previous riddle he's done, or the series which he's referring to is a callback to something from the past, like Black and White or Johto. But I think, again, it's option number 1. It's a callback to a previous bunch of riddles he's done. And he says, you'd have known the answer, but it was hard to interpret at the moment, so we prepared this series. Okay, so he is confirming then that this is basically about the riddles and not about, you know, a series of games. Either way, but people are trying to figure it out. I am trying to figure it out as well. Some people have tried to argue maybe it's related to certain things, like maybe things are going to be in the DLC, because that's the problem with these. He hasn't really clarified in any sort of way just yet if this is in any way or shape related to, you know, what's coming next in terms of the games, or if this is related to the DLC, right? Because, like, the thing with the DLC is I don't really know much what else we can really, you know, expect in terms of leaks from there, because we pretty much have a lot of the theories kind of bashed out and figured out, and we're going to talk about that more still. Don't worry, we still have a lot of stuff to talk about, but again, it's a little bit strange to say the least. I just want to figure out what this is referring to. So far, we know it's the heads are increasing every time he makes one of the posts, right? Dano, the Duo, Magneton, and then Probopass. The heads keep increasing, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, strange. What's that trying to say? Is it counting up to 5? Would 5 be like, oh, generation 5? I just don't think that would be reasonable. Again, keep in mind, this guy is a legitimate leaker, so the stuff he says does hold some weight. Then we did have some people giving out some theories, like, for example, Kuro says, given how this is Dano's AR code for the N3DS Pokedex, I want to tell myself this is a hint for the future games. Dano's original head remains upon evolution, but as Hydreigon, the dominant one, may be the new parasitic. It's a living paradox, a story that diverges yet reunites. So, again, interesting theory, really cool concept. I'm not gonna lie, I think it's a really cool idea, right? That basically, think about it, if like these different heads that we get that are all like diverging away from each other. I think that's a really cool concept. I'm gonna be real, I think it's really freaking cool, but I don't really know. And then we also have Solu says, this is definitely a fun way to do a riddle. I must say, someone missing his follow-up tweet though. When Ku usually talks about a series, he means a riddle series. I'd be cautious about making concrete assumptions of what this is referring to until we see more of this series. At least this makes me much more excited than his Faithful Remakes riddle, which is also a riddle, so it might not mean exactly what everyone is thinking either. And the Faithful Remakes, by the way, that's what we talked about earlier, right? You guys may remember that we were looking at that whole, like, tweet from a second ago. I'm just gonna scroll down. This one, right? This, the one in the, well, like, you know, that's in, like, Chinese text down here. So that's the one that's the reference to the Faithful round, right? Like, that's the one that's, like, the Faithful Remake. Now, give me a second. I am trying to make sure we get this correctly up. Here you go. So basically, we're talking about this one, right? Now, this one is the one that I said earlier. This basically translates to, you know, Faithful Remake. And as of course, our boy here, Soul Silver, who, by the way, is a leak analyst, says, you know, at least this makes me more excited that than his Faithful Remakes riddle, which is also a riddle. So it might not mean exactly what everyone is thinking either. But it is a riddle, though. That's not, like, nonetheless, this is a riddle, which then connects us to the next thing, right? So we haven't really figured out what this is all about. This can mean a lot of different things. It could be hinting at possible Pokemon we might see. It could be hinting at to the next games. It could be hinting to a story element. We really don't know just yet. I'm just giving you the context of what we do know about these, as of right now. But there is something else to talk about, which I want to bring up next. So we're gonna have to just stop looking at that stuff and just jump through here and get to the next thing. Now, this is a strange situation. Basically, we have this tweet right here. Now, this tweet, for most of you who look at it, will be like, okay, well, you know, it's just a bunch of, you know, Mandarin text. What am I supposed to look at this? He says, breaking, Chinese uncle leaked. And this is interesting, right? Because you'd think, oh wait, this is crazy, right? The Chinese uncle, the Chinese leaker. If anybody that remembers back in the day, whenever the Chinese Riddler, original Chinese Riddler, not Riddler Ku, but the guy from the past, whenever he would say anything on Tieba Baidu over on like their own like version of Reddit, it would be massive, okay? People would take it like, you know, and be like, oh my god, this is crazy. At least people in our side of the world. Over in China, though, people don't really take the Chinese Riddler super seriously. They kind of mock him somewhat. And I think Riddler Ku kind of mocks him too. But the fact that he brings him up is a little bit strange. He says breaking, kind of in an ironical way, saying Chinese uncle leaked. And then the post here, it says something very interesting. Now, we do have some translations, and it actually does connect as well to none else than Soul here, because even he has some stuff to say. But we're going to just simply go and scroll down until we find one of the solutions that people had, or like the translation, sorry, for what was being said. So basically, we had the following, which was more or less somebody asking, are we getting both, right? Are we getting both black and white and a paradox game, right? That's basically what it translates to. And then he said, it's just one of them. It doesn't mean both are like this, right? So, you know, it's a bit strange. Here's what it says. Original and paradox black and white. He says one of them doesn't mean both. So basically, he's saying that you're getting one of these things, not both. Now, again, the Chinese leaker, you shouldn't take with like, you know, with full-on open arms and be like, yes, brother, you are giving me the truth. But what he is implying is that you're going to get one of those two things. Now, again, Riddler Ku doesn't trust him. Riddler Ku doesn't seem to give a like, it doesn't like him, okay? That's at least the feeling he gives away. Then he makes a joke about Central leaks. He says, well, Puppy still hasn't reposted this real leak. She shows no respect to our big Hen King. And then the Hen King, I'm assuming that's going to be, again, a reference to this, again, this Chinese leaker, because Riddler Ku has straight up actually, you know, talked about this person before. As you guys can see, the individual right there is the same individual from this post right here. And here he just basically complains about this person, saying that they, in the Chinese community, they are not liked. Now, I don't really know much about any of that. I don't really care. For all I care is it doesn't matter. All I care about, though, is the leaks and the rumors and all the stuff that's actually fun to talk about. So basically here, he's implying that, hey, why hasn't Centro posted about this? Because a lot of people have speculated that Centro has their own leakers and their own sources. That's what a lot of people have speculated, which is fine. I do think they probably have some as well. So the fact that Centro hasn't posted about this is kind of, I guess, Riddler Ku trying to imply that, oh, even he knows that this is BS, which, again, I don't know. But he does say here, though, more hints from this new Chinese uncle. Then he says new Chinese uncle, but it is the same person. You guys can see the number here, 2311471359. You can see it right down here. It's the same person, 2311471359 again. And here people try to, like, translate it and see what it says. Basically, the guys here said authentic and paradox black and white, and then they continue, what is the paradox of black and white? And then he basically replied, it is a game developed by Game Freak themselves, and it's not a legendary series, and that would be Pokemon Legends, right? It can be understood as Black and White 3. Okay, who said this exists? Question mark, right? So that's, as far as we see from this post, that's basically what he's saying. So more or less, the person above is talking about, like, you know, authentic and paradox. So basically, original and paradox black and white. He replies with, what is the, or I guess the person here asks, or he says, what is the paradox of black and white? And then somebody here, again, this is the guy that we talked about earlier, he continues on and says, Game Freak, right? Game Freak, it is a game developed by Game Freak themselves. It is not a legendary series. It can be understood as Black and White 3. Pretty much trying to confirm that it is black and white, right? That's pretty much what he's trying to say. So again, I'm going to read through it one more time. Authentic paradox black and white. What is the paradox of black and white? It is a game developed by Game Freak themselves. It's not a legendary series. It can be understood as Black and White 3. Who said this exists? And then it just stops really right there. It's not really much else to say. At least that's what we know as of right now. So I don't really know what to say about that. It's a little bit odd. Again, most people say that this leaker is fake. That's at least the way that Riddler Ku, I mean, he's literally made a whole post about how he doesn't think this guy is, like, you know, legitimate, and that he, like, even makes the whole puppy time joke, you know, like, basically, he just doesn't trust him, and he thinks that Centro believes in this guy or like trust in this guy's words. Again, I don't really know. I am not inside of the loop of what these guys are up to. I'm just a guy here making YouTube videos, so I don't know what their whole beef is. Doesn't really matter, but I think it's important to bring up that fact that he's actually tweeting about this. Now, Riddler is known to mess around, right, and make jokes. And the fact that even people like, you guys can see right down here, even Soul Silver, as you can see, he posted a Reshiram. And if you look at the post where he's roasting the guy used to have a Reshiram, you know, like actual profile picture. So clearly, you know, a lot of these people are into the, you know, into like the inside joke. And you missed a significant piece of that picture. We can make sure that we didn't Photoshop the pic or spread misinformation. All is true. But basically, the solution to that thingy is that he's mocking the guy because he already has a perception of this person as being someone who's untrustworthy. But why would he be posting these tweets? This, like, you know, he could just make a tweet and be like, you know, don't trust this guy. This guy is BS. But he keeps making these weird, kind of twisty thingies with it. And he again says, exclusive, more hints from this new Chinese uncle. Again, super random, super strange. It calls him new, which is, I guess, a joke. And I don't really know if we should believe what's being said in the actual post from the Chinese uncle. But that would mean if the Chinese uncle is incorrect, then Ku could be implying that, hey, you are not getting black and white 3. But if the Chinese uncle is correct, then whatever we're getting might be a black and white 3, which to me would be so bizarre if they do call it black and white 3. Now, some of you, I know, I've had this old guy in my comment section. I appreciate the comments, by the way, mate. But I've had people argue, why wouldn't they call the next game's black and white 3? It's because it comes with its own problem, which is, for anybody that doesn't have a clue what the hell, you know, Pokemon black and white are, it'll be very jarring for some people to hop into it just because the number, okay? And I use this as an example. If you guys watch YouTube videos, if you back in the day used to watch Let's Plays, you would really genuinely never click on a Let's Play if it was called part number 59 or something, because you'd want to watch part 1 first to understand what's going on. Sure, sometimes people might click on it, but majority of people will go back and watch the first episode and then kind of, you know, get into the loop of it, which I feel like is a similar formula here, that if you just decide to plop it out without any context to people, you know, and it's different if, like, we had, you know, every Pokemon game being followed by a number, but we don't. The only Pokemon games that have been followed with numbers are Pokemon Black and White, and then Pokemon Black and White 2, right? Those are the only games that have a number attached to them. Everything else has got a unique set of names, right? That's why I personally don't think they will be called Black and White 3. They might be Black and White 3 in terms of what they are, but I don't think they'll be called that just because of the issues that come with that. Now, again, I could be totally wrong. They could do that, and that could maybe even do better in terms of people's interest, because you could argue like, oh yeah, but what about the PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Sure, but that's a series of consoles, and there's nothing in between there besides like the PSP or something, versus Pokemon, where like Black and White came out in like 2011, okay? It's been a long time since then. The new Pokemon fans have come in. Shit, there's some Pokemon fans today that play Pokemon that weren't even born when those games came out. So you got to remember, like, you know, some people may not have context like that. And it might be different for them to be like, oh, why would I buy this? I haven't even played the first 2. That's just the only reason I don't think they'll be called Black and White 3. They might be literally Black and White 3 in what they are, but I just don't know if they would be called Black and White 3. Nonetheless, though, back to what he was saying here. What I'm trying to say is that this could imply one of two things. Either that the leaker this guy is wrong and we're not getting Black and White 3, whatever the hell you want to call it, or something else. Basically, he's saying that it's Black and White 3 more or less. Now, what would that even mean, though? Like, what does Black and White 3 mean? Because everybody seems, and Ku keeps seemingly pointing towards this whole paradox version of Unova, this paradox concept of it that's not set in the regular Unova we're used to, but in like this kind of different interpretation of it, right? Which I think is highly possible. I mean, the Indigo Disc is going to be set in Unova, so having, you know, a game now next that's going to be literally in Unova would make total sense to kind of connect the two, which they've done in the past. But again, I digress. It's really hard to kind of figure this stuff out. I do wonder, though, if I've missed anything. We're going to just jump over really quickly here. I don't think we've missed anything as of right now. Alright, quick pause. In the middle of me recording this video, Riddler actually came out with more information, so let's continue. There's actually a big piece of info right here that has been revealed. So let's start with the beginning. Basically, he tweeted out these 2 tweets. You guys, we already talked about them this whole video. and then said exclusive more hints from the new Chinese uncle. And this is about 1 hour ago, and basically it's this tweet right here. Now I have a translation of this exact tweet. Shout out to Jan, by the way, for doing this. Jan, hope you're doing well. But Jan basically tweeted, basically translated this for me, and it basically translates the following. First of all, you gotta understand, the at, when you see like the little crazy A, the at sign, that's basically somebody replying to that person, right? So in this case, somebody's replying to at Batman, being faithful, remake, and paradox unova. And then somebody replies back to, I guess, the leaker here, the new, I guess, well, leaker, the person that we're referring to as the, now officially the auntie, right? Her name is the auntie, or we're calling her the auntie because it's a female Chinese, like, you know, uncle or whatever you want to call it. But basically, they say, WTF is paradox unova. And then basically, then there's a reply to another person says, Game Freak developed, not Legend series game. You can understand it as Black and White 3. Basically, this is a really strange situation because this person is basically saying that it's not going to be a Legends type game or Legends series game. It would be similar to Black and White 3, a literal continuation of sorts, right? And then there's a reply here who says, who said that was a thing, question mark. Right? Then we go down here and we have a few more tweets where they say more, and our team found her leaking history. Now, I have a whole tweet series of stuff that I actually talked to Riddler. I actually tweeted out having some confusion about this whole thing because it all seemed a little bit strange because the person that's being mentioned here, right, and the person that's being mentioned in the tweet we talked about earlier here may not all be the same people and may not all be related to the actual Chinese leakers. So it was all a bit confusing, right? But basically, we're going to go through this step by step to make you guys understand what's going on. Basically, it's the following. So we have this tweet right here. Now, this is not really easy for me to understand. We're going to have to go and translate this. And then we also have this post right here, which has a date in the corner, which is 2023-02-24. So that is the 24th of February of this year, right? And then back here, there is a like a post that leads to that and says Game Freak up here, GF, and then it's a post. But we need to get this translated. So we're going to go down here and actually tweet it as well, saying, I'm assuming everyone thinks this confirms Black and White 3, but why do I feel like we're missing something here? And then we go down here, you guys can see some of the translations. So there's a few different versions that people have translated, and I'm getting a lot of tweets in the middle of recording this, so bear with me as I'm going through this. But basically, here's the following. So basically it says, right up here, but the uncle next door said it was not a replica, but a new one similar to Legends. So this might be two different people. This might not be the same person anymore. Saying IP land rights certificates, and then it just, well, I guess that's actually just related to the actual website. But either way, this is the actual info we need. You probably forgot when I first mentioned this. It was much faster than them. He says then, anyways, isn't everyone a sucker? Will there be a replica of Mingjia this year? If not, Generation 10. No matter how sucky it is, it will always be right, okay? I can't speak out without exact information. You can see that I didn't speak at all before ZI, or ZZ, but you can check when Black and White first said it, including confirmation of this year's April Fools. And then he continued, where is the post mentioned for the first time? Please watch, but I think it's for reproduction. And then there's a Tieba Baidu post right there, which then leads to this post. If it's not the original flavor, I can't imagine it. And then here, what does it look like when Game Freak makes a Black and White replica? And that's like the actual title of the post. If it's not the original flavor, I can't imagine it. Implying that if it's not the original Black and White, the original, literally the journey of Black and White, what we remember it as, then they can't imagine it being a thing at all. Now, these people, the problem is trying to figure out who is who. Now, you guys can see the profile picture here is the same. And the profile picture here is the same too. But again, if these are the same people, that's hard to tell. I was having a hard time understanding if these people were all the same. That was the issue I had, which then leads me to my tweet that I made. So I specifically said, I'm wondering now, to be honest, are we even still talking about the same people? Now, what are we even talking about here? Well, basically, this person is implying, this Chinese leaker, this new leaker, is implying that Black and White 3 are coming next. But they say the following, well, this is what Ku, literally Ku replied to me and said, yup, people can change profile pics sometimes. What's more, on this platform, you can even change the name ID. So you can literally change the ID you're using and pretend you're someone else, right? Or you can change it and be someone else. So it's I'm not sure if you can like literally identically make the same one as someone else, but you can't alter it, right? Which is interesting. And I say, see, I knew something was strange about this, but still, So are we trying to figure out if the person in front of us is the real Chinese Riddler or the fake uncle? Because I didn't know, is this a real Chinese Riddler person? Like, we've had a Chinese Riddler in the past. I haven't seen him in a while. Or is this like a fake uncle that's like, you know, trying to say fake stuff? But basically, Ku comes out and says she is not, again, implying that it's a female, she is not the Chinese Riddler. She's a new uncle aunt, right? I found recently. Saw her before, but we don't know she made leaks. So we helped her to come out of the cabinet. Basically implying they helped push out her information or try to get it out there to the public so people can see it. I then tweeted the following saying, okay, but does she hold any value to her words? I'm trying to understand here from Riddler Ku, does the actual stuff that this person, this new auntie, not even Riddler, this new auntie leaker, does she actually have any value to her words? Can she be trusted, or is this a puppy situation? Puppy is me just referencing to something that Ku oftentimes says about people that, well, don't actually know anything or just repurposing stuff. So either way, he says, we should be kind to everyone. So this is not a puppy situation. I think the fact that he's implying here that we should be kind to this person means that, you know, this is not like somebody we should hound after. To everyone and give opportunity to new babies. At least from their words. They said they leaked BDSP, though we haven't found the old threads to prove it. So they don't have any actual proof of this just yet. It's like there's no confirmation of that just yet. Like, it hasn't been confirmed, which is fair enough. I mean, I don't really know what to say. And I basically figured out at this point that what he's trying to imply here is that he's not like, throughout this whole video, I've been talking about how we don't know if this person's legitimate, if what they're saying really means we're going to get black and white. It's not very clear, okay? It's really not very clear. But it does add for an interesting situation where I think basically what we're looking at is the following. Riddler Ku found this person, or has known about this person for a long time. Riddler Ku then simply took this person's info and looked at it and realized, there might be something of value there, but who is this person and can we even trust them? Because I've seen them around, but we don't really know who they are. And so he puts their information out there to push it out because we didn't know about it. We, the Westerners, right? We don't know anything about this. We didn't know any of this information. We literally did not know who this person was. The problem with this person is that we don't know if they are a legitimate, like, leaker or not, but also we don't know if they're pretending to be someone else or if it's like different people trying to be one person or pretending to be a person who legitimates that info. It's a little bit fucking confusing. I'm gonna be honest. It's like, I don't usually swear, sorry, but it's just a mind F. Like, your brain is just exploding trying to figure it out. But what the person is implying here is a black and white 3. And again, that comes back to that original tweet we looked at a second ago, right? Like the tweet we saw that was like up here. What does it look like if when Game Freak makes a black and white replica or remake? If it's not original flavor, I can't imagine it. That's what the person said. And that post was made in 2023-02-24. And then in the tweet here, like I said, if we go back to the original post, here, the person specifically said, like I said, I'm going to again give you the translation of what they literally said. Basically, faithful remake and Paradox Unova. WTF is Paradox Unova? Game Freak developed, not Legend series game, you can understand it as Black and White 3. Who said that was a thing? Question mark, right? That's basically what was said. And this is like, not that, you know, like it's a bit confusing. And as Jan told me, note that the at meaning they are replying to this person, not that person is speaking this line. The fake uncle one is saying the Paradox Unova exists. So that's the part that's a little bit different, right? So the person here who's replying is actually the Riddler, like, sorry, the Chinese, like, auntie, right? That's the person in this post that's specifically saying faithful remake and Paradox Unova. And then somebody asks, WTF is Paradox Unova? And then there's a reply, Game Freak developed, not Legend series game, you can understand it as Black and White 3. So he's saying there's two things, but it's very confusing because that conflates, that goes against what was originally said here. Because this original post was implying something else. Like, it implied, you know, like, it's implying something totally different. It's a little bit confusing. I'm trying to understand, like, how this, you know, computes with the previous stuff. It's just very much, you know, it's very much confusing, okay? So if we look down here again, if what people translated from the original post, right, if we can find a translation of it, because what it originally said was just, it's just a bit out there, but basically here, somebody asks, you know, like, what are the two models? And he says, just one of them, it doesn't mean both are like this. So basically, this could mean two things. A Black and White 3 style game and a Paradox game, I'm guessing. It's a little all over the place, I'm not gonna lie. But I wanted to bring this up because it is interesting to say the least. And there's been a lot of replies and stuff happening in the meantime. For example, there's another post here, you guys can see. We should hang out together. Basically, our team found her leaking record in history. He said we should hang out together and have a cup of coffee. I'll tell you everything. He said that to Lumio's post. But basically, it's all over the place. It's very hard to understand, but I'm going to break it down as following, okay? And I'm going to do this very, very straightforward. The person here posts and asks, basically says, somebody is asking, you know, oh, hey, what, like, you know, is it going to be a, what are we getting, right? The person says it's a Paradox Unova and Black and White Faithful remakes. So 2 things. We then get the continuation of that, where people continue, or we get this following information, where they basically say, like I said earlier, the following, which is them asking, or them saying, Faithful remake in Paradox Unova. Somebody asks, WTF is Paradox Unova? They reply, I'm assuming that they are replying here, Game Freak developed, not Legends series game. You can understand it as Black and White 3. So that's what the Paradox Unova game would be. It would be Black and White 3. But then that also means that we would have Faithful remakes, you know? Like, or is it them saying Faithful remake and Paradox Unova? Is that trying to imply that both things will be in one? No, I think that they're literally saying there's 2 games, 2 separate games. And then, again, the person asking who said that was the thing. So next up is this post right here. And this is the one that we don't have any context for, that I didn't understand at all. But basically, this is what Jan is telling me. So, here's what it says. Fake uncle, updating. According to last time I heard stuff in August, then Diamond and Pearl remake was announced in February. This time I even got info way earlier. Should be confident we'll get it next year. Look forward to how this Game Freak developed, not Legends Black and White remake will present to us. So that pretty much post right there confirms it if this person is real. But again, not even Riddler Coup is 100% certain of it, but I don't think Riddler Coup would bring it up if they weren't certain of it. Like, I don't even think Riddler Coup would bring it up if they weren't really, like, if he wasn't 100% certain on this thing. So I think the reason Riddler Coup even brought this up at all, like why he even mentioned this person or any of their posts, is almost like, hey, if they are correct, then time will prove it, right? If they are correct, like they're saying that there's going to be a Faithful Black and White remake and that there's going to be a Paradox Unova, because I think they're hinting at both, and that the Paradox Unova game or the Faithful remake, like one of them is going to be like basically Black and White 3. If he is correct, then we'll see, right? That's why he specifically said, if you guys remember that tweet of mine that he replied to, where he specifically said, we should be kind and give an opportunity to new babies, at least from their words. He's basically saying that, hey, if this person is genuinely real, if this person has legitimate info, then guess what? Time will tell, right? We will see with time. Let's give them a chance. Let's see what they have to say. Let's see if they're actually for real. Because this person is saying 2 things. Black and White 3, the Paradox Unova game, and a Faithful remake. Whatever that could be. I don't know. I don't really know. But ladies and gentlemen, it's all speculation as of right now anyway. So, I want to thank you all, guys. And let's get back to the past version of Ruffled, who recorded this a bit earlier. I think we've seen most of the stuff. But again, let's continue on to the next posts here. So, of course, I already talked about the shirt design here with the whole, you know, Probopass, Dano, all of them. Let's move on to the next thing. So this is a bit of a mix of theories here. You guys can see we have a bunch of tabs open. Just a bit of a mix of theories. We're going to go through these really quickly because I don't want to keep this video, you know, going for way too long. But basically, I don't think Game Freak will ever show us what the Loyal 3 looked like before they were given the Toxic Chains, because we have proof, by the way, that these 3 were basically weak, small little Pokemon before they were poisoned and given power by Dokutaro. Now, Dokutaro is going to be a brand new Pokemon that's going to be showing up. We have some context for it. We know what it's going to kind of look like because we've seen it already hinted in Kitakami. But basically, he continues on and says, it could be possible that they could have been something like, you know, a Rockruff, a small, not very strong first stage, same tail, snout, ears as Okidogi, Twacky, and Tranquil. Of course, it could have just been other new small Pokemon that we've never seen before. Sure, but we do know that they used to be small versions and then they became these big monsters. Either way, next up. And this is a big post here, but basically, this connects again back to Dokutaro. This is about the Indigo Disc. So again, it's going to be a little bit unrelated to the other stuff we talked about, but let's go. Part 3. Dokutaro possessed a trainer on the Kitakami signboards. The Dokutaro Pokemon was part of the group trying to get Ogerpon's mask. The depiction of Kitakami's signboard shows a human trainer with the Loyal 3 chasing Ogerpon. Based on what we are assuming we know about Dokutaro's ability to put people under its influence or turn them into zombies, this depicted trainer was probably actually Dokutaro influencing or fully possessing a human trainer. This could have been exactly what it did with Kieran. As many people we now know, Dokutaro was the one that gave the Loyal 3 their toxic chains. This, of course, is a direct reference to how in the tale of Momotaro's bribes 3 animals to help him fight the Oni with special dumplings. And in one retelling, it makes these animals stronger, which is interesting because, again, in this story of Pokemon, Dokutaro has been turned around and is now the villain, right? It's the bad guy. But it's interesting that the items are chains. This is why I keep saying Dokutaro's influence. The Loyal 3 are still sentient and can do what they want, but they're still chained to Dokutaro. In a way, it's still their master. This is how I'm assuming Dokutaro's zombie ability will work. It's a poison type, so it corrupts, and it's ghost type, so it can possess. And we now know it will come into play in the Indigo Disc quest line too. And we know that it's going to be in the quest line, by the way, guys, because of the fact that we've seen it from the data mines and the leaks from Pokemon, the teal mask, like the actual data mines proved that, but also there's a bunch of other stuff. But as this relates to Kieran, it seems he may have temporarily been under Dokutaro's influence, or maybe he still is under its influence. Maybe Dokutaro can fully materialize itself, or it's just like likes to stay in the shadows, and it used Kieran as a proxy to revive the Loyal 3, just like it used the trainer on the signboard to bribe the Loyal 3 to attack Ogerpon, which is fair. The final detail is that on the signboard, the Loyal 3 don't have a toxic chain yet, but the human trainer has a chain of dumplings hanging from his side. He definitely gave the chain to the 3 before they went to get the mask. So yes, it could have been that Dokutaro was controlling a human that did it then, or this person, oh my god, you literally have the chain right there. It's true. It's very much true. That is crazy. But, intriguing. The human depicted on the old signboards, I wonder if that's the Loyal 3's trainer. Interesting. And then here, okie dokie, we got the details about them, what they're all about and how they basically became what they did. And we, of course, have Dokutaro up there in the corner of that image. But there's more to talk about this. Part 4, this was originally part 2. I believe this is part of the Twisted Signboard tale. It talks about Dokutaro, that it is the shadow mentioned here. I think we've overlooked the part of the Teal Mask plot. This part of the Teal Mask plot. This scene happens, and this is the scene they're talking about right down here. Basically, this scene happens after we already know about the truth of Ogerpon and the Loyal 3. Why would we want or need to hear more of the fake story after already knowing the truth? Surely Game Freak could have made us finish reading the fake tale before telling us the true one, but instead they make us read this part after we already know it's not accurate info. That could be because that's how we are meant to go into this scene, with the thought in our minds that we are reading isn't exactly accurate. It's only half the truth. Kieran even reminds us that this is clearly not about Ogerpon. Not only that, but this specific signboard is a bit different from the other two, which tells us that the actual tale of Ogerpon and the Loyal 3, this one is more of a warning about an old shadow monster. Now, when we read it, it doesn't sound like a creature that can turn humans into zombies. Doesn't it sound? If we assume this is a separate part of the tale of Kitakami, this could have been an old warning against Dokutaro that modern people took as a warning about Ogerpon instead. That people in the Kitakami of the old used to make these masks to protect themselves from the shadow monster that if you look in the face would take control of that person, or take their souls, like putting them in chains. Again, poison, corruption, ghosts stealing souls. This could also explain Dokutaro's motives and why it wanted the mask from Ogerpon in the first place. Dokutaro naturally must be a mask wearer itself. It can probably use their power for itself. At the same time, the person can protect themselves from Dokutaro by wearing a mask. Lastly, Kieran may have came into face-to-face contact with Dokutaro, but it may have made more of a deal with him like it did with the Loyal 3. But we may actually see this whole soul-stealing zombie situation occur in the people of Kitakami in the Indigo Disc plot, as we've seen from the data mine. And again, you guys can see the story. If you see a shadowy figure approaching you outside a village at twilight, be wary. Don't don a mask at once and hide your face. It clearly is talking about Dokutaro. Do so, and whether the shadow is a man or a monster, you will pass each other by as fellow mask wearers. If you should meet the shadow when you have no mask in hand, then pray that it's only a man. Damn. It is. If it is, you will live to see another day, and you will be remembered to never forget your mask again. But if it is the ogre, you will meet your end, as do all humans whose faces are seen by it. once it sees your face, your soul be forfeit and you shall never return to the village. And then Kieran says, I mean, I don't think any of that stuff about ogre stealing souls is true or anything, but in the old days, everyone carried masks wherever they went. And the one who made those masks was, of course, his family member. Which is crazy, actually. So yeah, it pretty much confirms Dokutaro and why the existence of the masks, why it's the teal mask, why they even wear them. It all connects well together. And then we have the final part here of the post from Soul, who says, as a story progresses in the teal mask, Kieran wants to battle us every time he sees us, and by the end, he's obsessed with becoming stronger. He even gives a sinister, obsessed grin. If he made a deal with Dokutaro, like the Loyal 3, his desire to be the strongest could be made into a reality by Dokutaro. This power could be how he rises through the ranks and defeats everyone to become a champion of the Blueberry Academy. At the beginning of the Teal Mask, Kieran is pretty weak, but as the story progresses, and especially after we betray him, he gets noticeably stronger. Not to mention, from the moment we betray him, his emotions and attitudes are all over the place. He's angry, but also madly obsessing obsessing and freaking out over Ogerpon, over beating us. Then at the same time, he's depressed and feels remorse, but ultimately he chooses to be selfish and wants Ogerpon against its will. This cold-hearted devotion, potentially mixed with influences and power given to him from Dokutaro, is what we could truly get him to defeat all of the strong trainers in the Blueberry Academy that he really shouldn't be able to beat. Then once we arrive at the Blueberry Academy, I'm sure it will be up to us to stop his mad rise to power and possibly free him from Dokutaro's influence and toxic chains. I bet at the end, he'll have some kind of revelation of how crazy he acted and he'll become a kind soul again. Or I mean, he could just stay as our villainous rival that we constantly whooped. Big true, very much big true, but again, it is very strange. We do have this character being hinted. This is clearly Kieran, right? And his style, you know what I mean? This dude just went bad, man. He just went like, nah, dude, nah, I'm the king around here. I ain't taking nobody's shit. I mean, look, he took off his like normal, like nice tucked in shirt, you know, nice little tie and stuff, you know. He just took it off and he's like, nah, dude, I'm going tank top. You know, I've got that blazing t-shirt. I'm ready to rumble. It's really crazy, man. Like how much he changed, right? Quickly, so fast how he changed. But again, I think it's fun to bring up though nonetheless, and I think it's an interesting point to mention. Let's finish it off with a few of the last few posts. We have this one right here. This is a theory that comes in. I love this idea. The meteor either hit the pokey Earth and went straight through it, or that the meteor had such an impact that the volcanic mountain shot out from the other side of the Earth. Shot out. Maybe the meteor is the origin of the Terra Gems. And this is basically a theory here from Kai. If we open up this post right here, it says, I imagine the crystal pool being the opposite side of the planet to Area 0. Imagine a meteor falls into Paldea, creating such a massive crater with a force so great that it pushed Oni Mountain out the other side of the planet. That's pretty cool of a concept. And again, here he says, you know, or maybe the center of the Earth was already a Terra Gem paradise hidden from the surface until this meteor impacted deep enough to breach the center of the Earth. I think that might be a possibility. Either way, I love the idea that the paradise and Terra Gems are almost leaking out from the center on the Earth to these two specific spots on the planet. I always thought if it's like there's a tunnel connecting them from the center of the Earth, or maybe even a supernatural portal, that if you swam deep enough in the crystal pool, you should be transported to the Great Crater of Paldea, and vice versa. There'll be a portal hidden somewhere in AZ. This is all especially because I believe that Area 0 and the Paradise were inspired not only by Atlantis, but the novel A Journey to the Center of the Earth. It's important to note that it's the novel the explorers go in one volcano in Iceland and come out to a different volcano in Italy, which is a cool concept. Freaking hell, man. It's been a long video already. It's like 38 minutes. Okay. I'm going to finish things off with this post right here. And this is kind of a big post from Pen Paladin. By the way, check out Pen Paladin. Make some great YouTube videos over on their channel. So do definitely check Pen Paladin out on YouTube. And they say, okay, I feel like we're forgetting this tweet by Riddler. Who ships the Raid Fort? I think it's very fairly obvious. And then here he posts a Raid Fort and then a character and said ship, which is random. He says, Ku also implies in another tweet, some character mirrors Aizen, presumably taking off their glasses and becoming a villain. Well, it could be Ryford. She could turn out to be a straight-up villain. We already know she's a bit sketchy. I can't really think of anybody else with glasses because, you know, again, this whole post about, you know, Aizen, if you guys don't know who Aizen is, he's a villain from Bleach who pretends to be good in the whole beginning part of the show or the series, and then turns out to be the big bad villain of the whole series, right? It's the biggest villain in the whole series. There is a guy that's a bit more of a villain later on, but nonetheless, he's basically a bad guy, but he wears glasses and then he stops wearing glasses and slicks back his hair, similar to how Kieran, you know, takes off his like shirt and just wears all like, you know, more crazy, like, you know, more out there outfit and straight up slicks back his hair as well. It's a bit crazy, but it's very similar. Could also be possibly Ryford. Could be that these two are connected and that's what's happening with her. Or it could be our professor here. He was actually stalking us in Kitakami. Remember, he was hiding by the tree and he stayed there. And when you met up with him, he just didn't give you a clean answer to why he was there. He was just like, oh, I'm just staying here for fun. Ryford wears glasses, so it could just be her, but who ships with her? It can't be Karen because he's too young, Lamau. It must be someone significant who tweeted. It's got to be Jacques. And then again, notice how Jacques wears purple, whether in Scarlet or Violet. Could be because he's associated with the new Peach Pokemon rumored to be coming. And the Peach Pokemon, Dokutaro, literally is wearing purple as well. He also has the hexagon glasses, so he could be taking off the glasses, pulling back his hair, and he's the villain, man! That would be so crazy. I would love it if Jacques the actual villain. So what's this evil motivation? Hard to say, but Jacques is the biology professor with an expertise on convergent Pokemon. Maybe the Peach Pokemon is a convergent Ogerpon, something crazy like the first convergent Ultra Beast, Nihilego. Most likely a convergent Glimora though, which I think it's more like it's going to be a Glimora one. But he also says, they could have had anyone introduce Briar. They chose Jacques. They didn't want you to forget he exists like the other teachers. Big true. Why would they bring him in specifically? One last thought, maybe notice the hexagon glasses could be coincidence, but given the importance they appear to be placing on hexagons, hopefully this is intentional character design. And then also, we had the tweet from Riddler where he said, well, by far, I see no correct speculation of 7 plus 8 plus 1, and that 1 is a very purposeful Pokemon. Ku says still nobody's been able to correctly guess what the plus 1 means, which means it's not the new mythical and it's not the new Terra type. So I'm going to throw out an insane guess, and I don't think are right. What if Dokutaru is plus 1 new Ultra Beast, the first convergent Ultra Beast? That actually would be pretty cool, but I don't really know if they want to bring Ultra Beasts back, though. That's the issue. But nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, looking through all the posts and stuff we talked about today, I wanted you guys to let me know. Do you guys think Johto is coming next year? Do you think we're going to get Black and White 3, literally Black and White 3, or they're just going to be Black and White 3 but with a different name? Or do you think the actual Chinese leaker is wrong and Riddler is just messing here and just kind of mocking him for what he's saying? Do you think the game we're actually going to get is going to be a literal, like, you know, Legends type game for Unova? Or is it going to be a Paradox, you know, Unova game that's basically Black and White 3? Is that what we're getting? What do we think that the actual riddles here, like all of these posts with all these 4 Pokemon, with the, you know, the 1 head, 2 heads, 3 heads, 4 heads, what do we think about those? And of course, I want you guys' thoughts on Dokutaro and what you guys think about its meaning in the story. Just let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.